Hey, what's up? I'm gonna start vlogging another live stream here, and I'm just gonna start just jump off and do the damn thing, because I'm more so making this as like a journal and like a video document of conceiving of ideas in so when you if you watch like a late night flick, like you're actually watching a document of conceiving being conceived. And so if you watch a YouTube, you're watching also someone conceiving ideas in real time. But more so, people aren't impressed by conceiving ideas. It's funny, right? So like, a lot of people like it, I don't understand like when people aren't happy like with having children. Like, I like sometimes I'll like really think someone's interesting, and then I'll see them be like, yeah, man, like having a real problem about like say you knocked up somebody, right? You got someone pregnant, right? Like a lot of people are like having a problem, like it's a real problem to have a something like that in your hands. There's actually nothing more beautiful or blessing of a bounty than to have someone born to you. I don't think it gets any like I it's kind of interesting. I've noticed that a lot of people like somehow when people like have tragedy happen in their life, like they get incarcerated or they get conscripted to war or they get killed. A lot of times they were blessed to have a child before that would happen. It's interesting how life affords people a child a lot of times before like something that would like really put them in jeopardy. But a lot of people actually don't appreciate having the prospect of having children. It's interesting. Like I say like a lot of like I talk like a lot of I talk reckless to like a lot of people like as a skill set like to practice like socializing, because like social skills are a skill, and it takes practice to be good at anything. And so like I practice like social skills, but like I'll like say some stuff to like some fly mamas where I live at, and I was joking like this lady was like yeah, they were saying something about like, and he got this many baby mamas. I was like, damn man, I need me a baby mama. Where do people be finding all these baby mamas at? And she's like, oh, don't worry about that. You don't need no baby. That's not what you need right now. But a lot of people cease to be impressed by like life and like having children, stuff like that, and look at children as like a debt and an obligation and stuff like that. But it's interesting that like one thing that would so it's like if children, heaven forbid, are considered a obligation and a debt, which I think is ass wrong, is that's ass backward to think that children are a liability. But even if a person were to say that children are a liability, if you look at it that way, then what would be an asset? Would be freedom. A real asset is something that makes you more free. Because like when you get on down and something fly, you're having an asset. It makes you more free. But actually, the real thing that gives you two things give you freedom that I can appreciate. If you were in the worst of fettering, right? If you were in prison, if you were on if you were in some type of servitude, if you were in war, the best thing that you got going for you is contraband. That's the best thing. That's the best that you may enjoy, the best that you may do, the best that you may free for yourself, defend for yourself, fend for yourself, serve your time well. The best you got going for you is contraband like that. But the near about best form of contraband is the written book, because once something has been captured in print form, it's more it can be just it's similar to cash, right? So like nowadays, a lot of people they talk about a lot to do about Bitcoin and stuff like that. But one of the reasons that I think that cash is still around, it's not hasn't been dispensed with, it hasn't been bucked, it's because cash is actually the longer according to Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the longer something has been around, the longer it's like to stay around because it's proved itself. It's had to prove itself, and it's likely better for having been around. But that's not the exception proves the rule. So just because something's been around, don't mean that it's the only best thing possible. But cash money, baby, coin actually real money is actually coins. Real money is money. Mooney, according to Tashik Bey, refers to your precious metals, and that's what your alchemists were about. And it has to do with actual real implications of the subtle properties of like the motions and influences of the planets. And so too are actually are real. If you like a lot of people say, oh, you're financially illiterate. No, actually, you're illiterate if you use the word finance, because finance itself is a means of fiat. Finance is a accounting method in a system of fiat. So it's actually a little bit of an just like the word dollar bill is an oxymoron according to Tariq Street Bay, because a bill is like a debt, a levy, a summons is like a bill, and then money. Bill. The dollar is an actual unit of money that is like I think it comes from the word Occam collar according to Tashik Bay. So a dollar would be a real dollar, like would be a coin. It would be a precious metal. a unit of precious metal, and it's it's more redeemable, it's more valuable, it's more robust, it's more concealable, it's more reliable than like a levy or a credit on someone else's books. Because anytime you're having money as finance, that's according to someone else's books, so that's actually their money that whole time. If it's cash money, baby, if it's cash, baby, then it's private commercial paper according to Tashik Bey. But whether you hoard that paper in your pocket, it does not belong to you, and that's why you can't efface it or you'll be incarcerated. So if there were there your money in your pocket, you're calling your cash. If you do the right wrong thing with it, then it'll take your freedom away. The cash will of it. But that too, if you were to put it in a bank or put it in a bank, when you put it in a, so I'm saying is that neither is cash yours when it's in your very pocket, because it's private commercial paper, or if you were to redeem it into a bank of some kind, neither is it yours because it's in there. If you're not holding, hey man, can you just hold? I'm about to get up. Hey man, you look at this, man. The other day, man, I was at a job fair and I asked for like a hair tie, and I got this little cool rubber band like that. I also got another one like that. But hey man, I'm about to see about something. Can you hold it for me? Can you hold my green real quick, man? I got the bands, I got the rubber band. Now some people might have mentioned rubber bands, but did you ever have a reason? Did you ever have a cool enough reason to use a rubber band for anything? Anybody like I get blown out the water. They blow me out. They blow me out my own pond. I'm on here. I got my own YouTube channel pond. Maybe I should call myself Pond, because I had a pond on my shit, and now I got left is YouTube pond. And then they come in here and they blow me on my own pond. They get the little firecrackers and in the comments firecrackers, and they put in the pond and they blow me out of my own pond like that. But did anybody blowing me out of my own pond and talking this one back? Did you see what's the guy doing here? What's the guy doing here? How many inches? How many inches, Mister? How many is it? 3 inches, Mister? How many inches are you working with, real man? How many inches? But even so, but did you ever actually have a cool enough reason to use a rubber band for anything? For anything? Did you ever have a cool reason to use a band? Did you ever have a hairstyle long enough that necessitated the improvisation of a rubber band if you didn't have another way to tie off your hair like that? Did you ever have amounts that much in your life? Did you ever do such a thing? Or did you ever have enough in your pocket that you wouldn't need to use a rubber band for anything? Did you get it like that? You get out the mud. You were free to do so, and you didn't get your ass locked up while you're doing it, and you're still good to go to do anything you'd like to do. So you had to be good enough then. You had to be real pro. Because in the pro in your own, so you get it out the mud doesn't make you a pro. You get it out the mud, you keep it out the mud, and you go your merry way, and you go back to the mud. You stay the hell away from the mud as you now you're liberty to do so. Now you're professional. So just because you're playing the mud don't mean you're professional mud anything. But even so too, doing that or not, out the mud or not, did you ever actually have a reason to use a rubber band for anything? Anything cool, like a hairstyle, or did you have enough of something green to use a rubber band? But then when you had enough of something green to use a rubber band, did you ever think to use a green rubber band for that? So did you ever use a green rubber band for your hair, or did you have enough of a stash of something that even cash? Did you even have enough of a stash of cash and conceive to put a green rubber band around it? But hey man, can you hold this? Can you hold my green one for me? Can you hold my rubber band for me? I'm about to go see about something, but. Oh, I did. Oh, I'm back, man. Hey, man, that's some shit, man. Hey, can I get my green back? Can I get my rubber band back? Because I know you were holding it for me, man. Because you know that's mine, right? Because you down like that, man. And I had to go see about that shit, man. I had to see about some shit. I had to get down to work, man. You were holding my green for me, my rubber band when I got to work. But can I get my green back? You may not get something back because something held it for you. So as long as something is that you would need to have someone hold something for you, that they're holding it for you, and that you'd like to have it back. At no point of that is that your shit, because they're like, so you think enough of me to let me hold what belongs to you? Very well. Very well. I will hold this for you, and I am humbled. It's funny, right? Have you ever seen the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? The Greek sword player Li Mubai is trying to dispossess himself of the green destiny. I don't know if that's like really realistic that you got the coldest thing ever and you're the coldest with the coldest thing, but you want someone to hold it for you because you got better things to do like be enlightened, but you're also almost enlightened, but you threw that away because you weren't quite done with like a half baked, not half baked, that's mockery. I'm sorry, but you had a love interest that prevented you from going to nirvana. So you let someone hold the greatest sword, however much value that have, and what they also have to you as a greatest sword player. You let them hold that, then while you already had it, you were already viable to go to enlightenment. The Dao in that film, the Dao. The Dao. He was almost about to go to nirvana, but he already had the green destiny. But then he did not do so. Then he's getting ready to come off of it, so that he can live a humble life. That's not a bad thing. If you don't want to be enlightened, and you don't want your skill set and your sword, and you're still having a reputation because once something, always something. So you wouldn't necessarily be free from like the torment and the vendettas of a life of a sword player. So you're willing to consign yourself to that destiny, that amount of vulnerability to get off the sword. But then too, what? But for what? So you can, so that you can rekindle something with your former comrade's fiance. But true, but love is strange like that. So that's actually kind of beautiful. That's actually kind of deep. I would actually buy that. It's far fetched, but I actually would buy that. You would actually go through all that, come through all that, so that you could merely get on with a woman that you're in love with. But that too, you still had it, and you already bumped into her again. So you had it. You're thinking about getting off of it, and you bumped into her again, and you still had an opportunity, and it hadn't yet worked out. Even as you're now back in each other's life, but you want to get rid of the sword. That's actually not, that's so unrealistic that it's actually kind of realistic because exception proves the rule. But the thing is that when he took the sword, that's what I want to say. I think there's one part where the governor takes the sword from him. So he got the green destiny. He's like, oh, can you just hold the green destiny for me? Yes, if you will. If you, I'm the governor. I'll hold it for you because it also doesn't mean that much to me. The governor was quoting there because he's like, yeah, man, you guys, you karate, you all you martial artists, that you guys are warriors. You guys are warriors. But sometimes warriors can be cowards in love. Is that something? And then he walks off on him like that. That's some cool shit. He said like that. Yeah, I'll hold your little fly ass shit, man. But I still, but you know what I'm saying. But sometimes it can be, you know what I'm saying. Because if it's about that, you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying like, um, you gotta kiss the girl. That's what he was trying to say to him. But that's some real ass shit too. It's like, man, y'all kids being kids, man. This sword being cutting people's heads off and shit. It's probably worth it's worth someone's life and limb. You got this great master coming back so he can fall in love with the other one that they're both too shy. They've been getting through this many battles, but they're too abashed to be honest with each other or be honest that it ain't working for them or it could work, whatever not. But yeah, man, let the kids enjoy the view, man. I'll take your sword, man. Shit, here you go. Thanks, man. But he was cool like that. But all I'm saying is that it's interesting when he took the sword from him. He's like, he respectfully took that sword off of him like that. But that's what we do when we go to the bank. They're taking our cash off of us like that, but they're not looking at us like the great Lee Mubai like that. But I'm just saying is that the money, it's not really our money like that. But if it were real money, it would actually be precious metals according to Tashi Bey. And then when you're viable, like at first he said, because like according to King Noble, all life and even the stories of the Bible, like the Holy Bible can actually be appreciated a little bit like an almanac, like an older iteration. It has principles of horticulture, farming, and seasons, and it wasn't very far and much different than like an actual record of like horticulture. I guess genealogy is interspersed in there, but there's some actual principles of seasons and horticultures. Like for example, letting the land rest. That's a very deep solemn principle of horticulture. But then also a broader thing than that. So you have life is cycles within cycles. So if you have a crop, right? If you have a land, you have to till the soil. I mean, you have to till the soil, plant the soil, reap the harvest of the soil. Allow not glean it because actually some of the actual yield of the harvest, it has to stay on the field so that it can actually replenish the field. So that's a deeper principle too of the Bible. If I have any biblical scholars in here, do you remember? Are you familiar with the concept in the Bible of not to glean something? Are you familiar with that concept? Not that it's not appropriate at any point to glean something. I think that I've made some references on this channel about feudalism, and I was looking at the commentary back in, when I got off into feudalism. They're like, man, that fool don't know what the hell you talking about right there. Because I was actually going back. What I was reaching for is that I was going through some of our iterations of caste structure that I can appreciate as a member of Western society. It's funny because like some people might hop on a video like this and like, man, this fool doesn't seem to be educated. He did, but I actually came through a lot. I came through 12 years of school. Like I have my high school diploma. And I have I classify as some college, a lot of some college on, like when I go to a job interview application, do you have high school diploma? Check. College degree? Not so much. Associate degree? Not so much. Been to college? Yeah, hell yeah. Credits? They didn't ask how many credits. I got a lot of damn credits on there, but I don't get credit for nothing. I don't get in this life. It's all or nothing, baby. You've been through a lot of school. You've been through a lot of college. You've been through a lot of YouTube. You've been through a lot of study. You met. So your actual dad's a professor, no less. Your dad's from somewhere. You speak about any of that or your experience in any of that. Nah. We ain't giving you that look, man. No credit, baby. No credit. But you will set up a credit card, but you won't give a jackass any credit for anything. But what I was reaching for is that, as I can understand caste stratification, is that we have now, like we have digitalism now, which is as arbitrary as any other phase. Like I'm on here, right? I'm doing my thing, da 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 da. I might be cool, might not be a jackass, right? But I don't get the same opportunities online as other people, and I don't get the same amount of confidence and esteem afforded to me, and I don't get enough runway track. I don't get enough I don't give enough of a rope to do anything cool with. So but a lot of that can be as arbitrary now in digitalism as it had been in times past and stuff like that. And it's like who gets to actually who actually, so this fool got this thing on his head, right? But who actually does get to have you appear, you'll come online like this, right? I'm online as me, right? I'm letting it all out there, baby. I'm letting it all hang out there, baby. I'm letting it dead hang like that. I let it dead hang off my head like that. I did it off my head. I let it dead it off of my head like that. And I did had been that soul like that. And then be my truth like that. I show my truth like that. But they say, man, even though you're appearing on here like that, you don't actually get to look like you. You don't get to have your look for having your look. You may not have your own look, sir. Because what the hell is that thing? What is that? So is that your real hair? Is that your real hair? Or is that processed hair? Okay, because that other guy over there, he's more convincing as that's his real hair. Yeah, but how much processed food did he eat to have that hair and shit? Did you think about that one? I'm more so stay off the processed shit if I can have anything to do with it. But in art, we are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. You know that we are living in a processed world, and I am on a computer processor, appearing to you on a computer processor, and we have all been processed all the way through. And so a lot of things are not what they seem to be, not even our biological body. So I'm just saying that anything is as good as anything, and anything's also bullshit. But a lot of people don't get to rock with the same bullshit the same way, like that. So I'm saying that that's digitalism now. But prior to that, you had but I think that I can appreciate we had digitalism is like the paradigm and the stratification, the caste system, the arbitrary caste system for mitigating for spelling, mitigating, preventing, guaranteeing, and enjoying and suffering different degrees of livelihood and happiness and esteem, the greater of which being esteem among our brothers and sisters and children in one another's eyes. That esteem amounts to any degree of enjoyment or suffering and physical realities and implications of livelihood. All that now is digitalism. Prior to digitalism was actually materialism. I think that one of the strongest ways of materialism as a caste system in itself was actually that when Madonna was coming out with that, that I've been covering Madonna and shit, like, because I that's one of the tracks I like Madonna, just because if you're enough of yourself, you're simply great. It doesn't matter. You can be actually selling materialism to children and men, but you can actually be selling people materialism as materialism is like getting over on people. But if that's actually really who you are, it can actually be applied like that. So Madonna ain't wrong, but actually that was actually a caste system, a low-key caste system that someone may not have seen that may never actually been articulated online until I'm making this statement right now. Because I remember I would listen to like Kevin Samuels, right? Kevin Samuels was a material girl. Like a lot of people say, hey, my video lost sound, and like they're like, hey, smile if you're gay. So, but actually, Kevin Samuels was a material girl because, like, if you listen to Kevin Samuels' statements, he's all about materialism, a high value man. And not to mock Kevin Samuels, because I like him because he's himself. He's enough of himself, and he was savvy. And I want to be a no girlfriend walking on your arm match in front of Kevin Samuels, because I wouldn't be guaranteed that anybody's going to. Kevin Samuels would be like, yeah, man, and that's the thing, because they always say you're such a Peter Pan, and you're so this and that, and so I always get over on a girlfriend like that, man. Every time, man, they always come at me like that stuff. They always want to call me this and that, and I always be the main one to go home with the girlfriend and stuff like that. Your boy Kevin Samuels said like that. So to each their own, man. Whatever is fun to you is fun to you. However you get that done, if you ain't wrong about it, like that, man. Ain't problem if it's wrong, like that. But Kevin Samuels, he's a lot about materialism, and like he was repping materialism. But it's kind of deeper thing, which that all things aren't good or bad in themselves. Like I put on this channel that if you remember like the Snoop Dogg video, like there's this kind of insightful. The old Gin and Juice Snoop Dogg video, right? They're in the hood like that, right? That's like the first time a lot of us understood about the lifestyle, because like a lot of culture comes from California, and like even like Tupac, Snoop Dogg, he brought the world up to speed up. He put the world on game about how them parties look in back in the day in Cali, in SoCal. And I think probably a lot of people, like even nowadays, like when people get on to like house parties and stuff like that, they may actually be replicating some of the sentiment and the vibe of that actual Gin and Juice video, if you think about it. Because I bet you, I'm not saying that he was the first one to invent parties, but he was the one to make that way of partying cooler than shit. And people like you do enough of if you do some things, you simply traumatize people. If you do good or bad, you do cool enough shit, you simply traumatize people. Some people are simply traumatized by the swagger of the video Gin and Juice to this day. That's what a party's house party should feel like. At least the vibe of it back then. But you notice as they were that was the real, like they say that some people say that California is interesting because like sometimes it will baffle a person how it can be that much about that life, but you got the palm trees right there. Or like if you go in a lot of hoods like in California, the hood might not look like the hood because a lot of those houses like are they're like I think you call that a ranch when it's like a one-story house like that. Those ranch houses, they actually are kind of look well to do. They look sturdy because they come from a time where I think California did have their act together a lot economically. Like prior to the civil rights movement and stuff like that, California attracted a lot. Like Snoop Dogg himself, he's African American. When you listen to him talk, his mannerisms and speech are reminiscent of the South, but also likely he would be culturally reminiscent of the South as the Southern California is one of your centers of black vibrancy for many iterations now, similar to like the Midwest and the East Coast. Southern California is no different, but that too is because California would have been attracting a lot of people from the South, coming out of slavery, Jim Crow, sharecropping, all the way probably going back, but at least through the early half of the 20th century. A lot of black talent and initiative and culture would have been attracted to California. So California actually had their act together because, honestly speaking, even in the time of segregation, where you have the black community has been strong. The black community has been strong in slavery, in Jim Crow, in the 20th century. I actually think that it's kind of, I don't know if I'm egregious to say this, but I think that if there was any point where the black community was the most in jeopardy, in the most danger, and the most not itself, hey man, you're not yourself, you're not yourself, are you good now? It'd be right now, actually. I think that we actually might be worse off now as the black community now. More of trauma, more of the same old shit now than any other iteration in the past with the digital stuff, because the digital stuff is it's more calculated, it's more scientific, and it's ratcheted up to get us hurt like that. I'm saying that, but in if you look at like how, but so the black community has been strong. The black community has suffered and sustained a lot of sabotage and undermining. That's the black community as a whole, but also an individual, an excellent black individual. I will say this out my mouth. In America, an excellent black individual unto themselves, as much as they have ability to do for themselves, shall suffer some degree of sabotage and or undermining in the very in the environment, in the general, in the climate of American society, and some of the chauvinism and the attitudes and the attitudes of America, both in the community and in the home and in the family, from the community, from African Americans and non-African Americans. Excellent African Americans shall suffer undermining and sabotage. I'm not saying that that'd be different for any other person, but I can't speak for another person. But I know that for myself, the more I would do well for myself, and as I am demonstrating doing well for myself, and in the process of doing well for myself, and have a track record, and I'm present, and I'm in the act of doing well for myself and others, mind you, because you do well for yourself by doing well for others. As others, having a viability to do well for myself because of a track record of doing well for others, while still doing well for myself, while intending to yet do better for others, for myself, but more so for others in the first, second, and last place. I have suffered undermining at all tiers of that, not the least of which my very nearest of kin, and at different times comrades and countrymen and brothermen and foreigners and people from where I come from and abroad in the diaspora, all of that. Exactly like that. There you have it, baby. Rock and roll, breaking the rock and roll, baby. Bring it to America, baby. This is the land of America. There are no cats in America, and the streets are filled with cheese, but they still be rough and shit. So, but California, it would have been like that, where the black community, they do well, we do well, where we have where we have something to work with like that. So we had not got 40 acres and a mule back then, and we still have yet to get our actual fair shot at having a shot, and we're still all right by and large, even though it's getting worse and worse against us. But so actually, that Southern California, I don't think that Southern California would have had the worst of economies like at all times, like in going back. But I bet a lot of the viability of Southern California and what put Southern California got it sturdy like that it would have been the black contribution. Not only, hell no, not only the black contribution. Not, I'm not saying that, but not the least of which the black contribution to Southern California. So because you're in Southern California, even like in the '90s, like with Snoop Dogg, or in the 20th century, that don't mean that they ain't having class, because like they had them couches very nice on that film Gin and Juice. They had his family, his like his elders, and that he's portraying you what it really looks like in what's called the hood there, the real lifestyle of it, the reality of it, and it's not having class, because that's a form of class and etiquette. Even the hood culture of California, the culture of California, that's a degree of class and etiquette and sophistication par excellence, as whether as a culture or subculture. That's class. Snoop himself, because he would have been having. I'm not trying to associate with anything, or I'm not trying to bolster anything above anything. But even if you look at people like that are really from that Californian culture that has been appreciated and replicated the world over, it's not having class. It's not having crease. It's not being color coordinated. It's not doing anything creative or not. It's not paying attention to detail. It's not having errors in a uniform like that, or in a civilian attire. It's not having that. It's not having class, including that couch there. But that too, it's also not having work ethic. It's not having community. It's not having all that stuff. So it's actually interesting, but actually case in point that the actual real seat of like Southern California in the '90s, where what you'd call the hood, the houses ain't got to be all the way bad. People ain't got to be all the way broke. People ain't got to be away from class, but we still have some of those outcomes. And so I'm saying that I'm extrapolating that some of what would have been wicked about like Southern California in the '90s for people in California, whatever side people were of anything, whatever end of the stick people got, some of the very wickedness of like what is portrayed in the music of Snoop Dogg, what has been replicated or maybe fixated upon about Southern California culture, then is not actually the people themselves and even the participants themselves. It's some of what was introduced to it, that what was corrupting about it, was poison about it. So I'm saying that community itself, like say Southern California, like with Snoop Dogg, that's like in the '90s. So like that stuff, that lifestyle that he's portraying in the '90s, that is coming off of the crack era, which was from without. That was dumped. That was dropped off to the community from without. The drugs were. Then the weapons were too. There were also weapons dropped off then and now. They'll say things like, it's like some of these cities that have like really like crazy statistics. They actually also have like, there's actually places where like, how do people? So you go to like the Middle East, right? These people have no money, right? How are they putting up a fight? You see how fancy, how much they like. You sign up for anything, right? You sign up for the military, right? They take care of you, man. They got like, I imagine like you make multiple four figures as a like, so like multiple tens of thousands of dollars as a service member. You have full benefits. You have the equipment. As long as you're doing what they're bidding, you have the equipment you need to do any horrible, wicked shit, all the way up to like expensive helicopters and weaponry that cost this many thousands or millions per round, per ordinate. But then how are you having that much of a problem with people that have nothing, that are destitute? How can people that have nothing and destitute put up a fight against that? The how at all to organize against that, or even have the actual equipment to go up against that? It'd just be interesting how actually these weapons get to the vicinities of these different hot zones, whether near or abroad. So I'm saying that they were some of the actual detriments, because you actually can't control fallout, you can't control radioactivity fallout, but you can actually appreciate different trends and how things are likely to unfold, such as social engineering and like real Machiavellian type stuff. So I'm saying that the communities, like say the black community in California, not only that, but that for a case in point, you have the real lifestyle, the propensities of the people, the strengths and shortcomings of the people, which are all the people. But then you also introduce the drugs, and not only just not entheogens, natural plant, animal, and mineral substances, probably metals too, that are known to human beings, that they can be curated and used to different outcomes, both favorable and unfavorable, redeeming and enlightenment, and horrible also in one natural sense. But then you can also engineer that and weaponize that. So anything can be weaponized, including food and including substance, entheogen. So food and entheogen are both substance, and they can be also drugs. And all food, all things that we may ingest are on a spectrum of food. They're all actually food. So actually, what you're calling like that will change your mind. That's actually food. But a better way would be to say substance. I got that from the book Wu Tang Manual. RZA and Wu Tang, he enunciated that anything you would consume is a substance. But when it's in a natural sense, it may be nutrition, and real true food, proper prior excellence, what we mean by that word, and or entheogen, like that, in a wholesome sense. But it can also be exactly skewed and reversed and weaponized, and that would give you a drug and or junk food, which is then also a drug at that point. So pop and chips is actually a form of drug. Why is this hard to kick as a drug? It can injure a person financially. I've seen some of the outcome, experienced some of the outcome of that aftermath of not having partaken of it much at all as a grown adult. So I did procure pop because like when I used to drink spirits, I'll exactly combine it with pop. My favorite kind of pop, but I don't otherwise drink pop or eat things that can be blatantly appreciated as useless. I don't choose useless food. I had a conscious habit about that since I've been an adult. But it can be very, it can have a lot of damage too, because all the things you do, they affect your family and that then your community and then yourself through that. But the actual pop and chips and junk food that you would find like but life is poison, to each your own form of poison. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just citing it, is that junk food is actually drugs at that point, and not different and not less detrimental financially, emotionally, or personally. Because you think about it, a lot of times, like say someone will get to like you like say heaven forbid something happened at these schools, right? And I'm not advertising that, soliciting to that, or threatening that, or celebrating that. But I'm just saying we have a history, a track record in the United States of atrocities happening at public places, public meeting places, venues, soft targets like that, right? But some of the very perpetrators of those, they are unseeming. They wouldn't seem that they would have that they would have that in them, or that especially not that day. But what did they all? And so someone say, who would do that? When would such a thing happen? God knows how. Who God knows what's happening with that stuff. Is I'm saying that some people have been so bold as to say that if you look at school, right? School is a lot about power. School is all about power at all levels. From people's first day, sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. Now, like when I was a school bus driver, I am a school bus driver. When a small child steps up on a bus, that's a beautiful experience for the child, but actually for the driver too, because you're introducing that child to the beginning of their life. You're actually, like for me myself, I have actually been a child's first experience of school, because I was these pre-K students. I've taken all levels of children to school, but and also civilians like on the transit side. But as school age children go, there would be some children that were they were like not only pre-K, but they're like pre-K. It's like setting them up for, like, they'd have savvy parents that are getting them ready to hit the ground running. So by the first time they got on a bus for anything, to go to school for anything, away from their parent for anything, I'm the first one that they see right there. But that too, I've also transported high school students as they're completing their career too. So your actual the person on the bus is a person's first representative of the school, even though you're not working for the school itself. As in the eyes of a child, you're actually an extension of that and a representative of their actual education. But so that's actually beautiful for you too as a driver, and a lot of power that's in your hands. But for the child also, it's a sensation of power because that bus is so huge. This stranger is so formidable. Now I'm a friendly person because I love all people, and I'm not. I would never, for the life of me, present myself as intimidating to a child or anyone. But the that's a very powerful experience. This big old person like that, because I remember it was like when I saw bus drivers when I was a little kid, they were bigger than life, but so too was the bus, so too was the peer pressure of the other kids. So school is a lot of power the whole way through. It is, and for your level it's intimidating. It's even, I remember, like, I bet you, like, even like, so like a lot of people, right, a lot of grown ass people and shit, right? Like, I'm at a library right now. I bet you if these librarians, if they had to go back to high school as a staff member, like say like anyone here, right? Like I'm some grown ass people and shit, library and shit, right? So school is about books and shit, and the but also the library is the main place having books. A library should actually be more about book in school than even school. But if you actually were to take some librarians and you make them lead school children at any level, but especially like say the higher ranks or maybe middle school or high school, have a unseasoned, untrained novice adult member of society who's viable, go speak to, address a body of students, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, 500, 1,000 or more. At any level, an adult could actually be daunted and intimidated by the prospect of public speaking at all, but that too, even in front of school age children. Then to actually also lead them when they're like, maybe when they're being compliant or not. So I'm saying that school itself, right, high school, it can be intimidating for anyone at any level. Pre-K, kindergarten, early elementary, middle elementary, late elementary, early middle school, adolescence, middle school, high school, mid high school, late high school, just out of high school, college, late college, graduate student, member of society, faculty, anybody at all could potentially be a little bit intimidated by a school setting if they had a reason to go there and they had to actually put themselves out there for any reason and they were actually somewhat extended and vulnerable. Because usually, if you're leading people, if you actually are leading someone enough that you have power and that is influence, you can also be influenced back and you can be subject back. So if people are subject to you, you're subject back. So the prospect of high school can be intimidating to anyone at any level, whether they're in or out of high school. Just how much of power, both the actual liability in the circumstance itself, and then what's on the line, like people's future and actual outcomes of livelihood and opportunities to be something that they want, or get stuck in a horrible job if it didn't work out, or get a great job if it did work out, hopefully. But that too, the peer pressure of it, because nobody wants to not. We're subject to other people's appraisal of us, because we're not actually individuals at any point in life. We're a collective group species, but we're also a competitive species. So the prospect of peer pressure is simply profound. But so school is a lot about power. So, but also power is never settled. Power abhors a vacuum, but also it abhors stability as much. Stability of power is also a vacuum because it can be arbitrary. The more something's stable, the more it tends to get out of line, like with power and stuff like that. So power is always is healthier for challenge, but it's never away from challenge. And where free of challenge, that's the worst setting, because that's when it's truly idle and it's getting ready to come back even wickeder, like a snake that has time to get its venom stronger. So some people have said that schools are very, very violent, because another word for violent is competitive, because the school is seeking to, no sooner does a child arrive at school than the school is seeking to change that child. That's actually violence right there. If I was a school bus driver, right now, you would appreciate that. If having, I don't mean to be light with this reference, but it's to make a stronger point. If if a driver, right, if an adult member of an adult staff member of any kind, even not even an older student chaperone, was to make a younger student feel intimidated, that would be horrible, simply horrible. Because if you're not safe, it's horrible not to feel safe. Even an adult in the regular society, if something doesn't make you feel safe, but you also have to be there, that's simply horrible and daunting and difficult for anyone to face that. But then also, actually, if were violence to occur, right, for a child, right, that would be horrible. Whether from a staff member, a student, peer, an elder peer, or an elder child chaperone, or a high-ranking administrator, or anyone at all, right? Or even a younger student, anyone at all. For violence to happen to a child for a person in life, but also a child at school, is simply horrible, right? However, what is violent but to change someone, right? So if I'm right here, right, I'm comfortable right here, I'm happy right here, I have enough, I'm okay right here. Then someone come push me like that. That's violent, but why is that violent? It's because it changed me as I did not intend to be changed or enjoy being changed. But so if a child were to ride on a bus like pre-K and they choose to sit somewhere and say, no, I'm gonna need you to sit over there. Just that doesn't sound violent, but that was actually violence right there. If I say, hey, I'm gonna need you to sit over here. Can you sit over here for me? I just asked them. I just compel the word. If you look up the word compel and impel in the dictionary, those are the actual some of your high tier dictionaries. Like I'm not going to cite any names because sometimes if you cite something, the channel video won't upload. But whatever, it'd be interesting. Whatever your favorite dictionary is, if you're interested in something, look up both the words compel and impel. And a lot of times the dictionary doesn't even, a lot of people say like, hey man, you're just this jackass, you show up here talking this and that, but did you even cite any sources? Did you even do your research? Have you even been to college? Yeah, I've been to college, but did you actually graduate college? Didn't? Okay, no, so you're not official with it, right? But if you look up official dictionary, they didn't actually take the time to actually give you the difference between compel and impel. Yeah, I mean the same shit, but it sound different, so it's therefore already different because it sound different, and it will function different in writing because it sound different. But like when a devil has a pitchfork like that, that's an implement. That's an I shall implement the specimen. Yes, they are arriving. The new cohorts are arriving to our chambers. I will promptly implement the specimen to no end unto eternity, so they may know their true standing is to not stand still at all, but also not get happy and comfy running and shit. They shall be impelled and compelled the whole time and shit. Very well, excellent. We will impel the specimen, and also we will incentivize incentivize that one over the ascender. Make sure they remain incentivized to exert maximum effort, and when they actually attain to comfort and skill at exerting maximum effort, further implement them and shift the incentive to get more yet rigor and torment from this specimen is our job of the thing. But that's an implement with that like that. But if you actually ask someone, hey, can you sit over there for me? Hey, I know you guys are doing that. Can you guys come over here for me? You actually just impelled them to. You actually are commanding a person. That is, you are invoking. You are commandeering. You are what's the word I'm looking for? You are there's a word like when the military needs your shit. There's a certain word for like when the military, like when they show up and they need your shit right now because this is where we're at and that shit would actually work right now. So we need that. We're gonna need that shit right here right now. When the military does that, there's a word for that. They can do that. Like some people are afraid of that. Like when you hear of like if there were, heaven forbid, like some kind of camps that came through and like to marshal people like that. But there's a word for when the military needs your shit right now, and you have to use it because this is the military that you're also subject to, and we need your shit right now. But that's actually what people do with someone's free will when they compel you to do something. So that was actually violent. You could say that maybe a child, right? If you have the most now, I love people, I love children, I love my job. But I'm aware of things. If you had the most well-meaning school official at all, or even elder chaperone of a student, or even peer of a student at all, the most conceivable well-meaning person at all that has any form of influence in a learning venue at all, on the very first day of pre kindergarten to even get on the bus, and the child would get on the bus, they're happy. Oh, bye, mom. Okay, hi, Mr. Bus Driver. And they're nervous, like they're nervous to get on this big old bus, and there's not even any kids to be having peer pressure yet, right? They're the first stop, right? And then and then they go sit right there. The first place they start to sit down, and they're waiting to watch you drive because this is a new thing to watch the bus driver. But then they didn't also know that the bus driver has a mandate, or they have a preconceived notion that the students need to sit somewhere like based on name, or based on age or something like that. Something that's somewhat arbitrary because it's different than their actual choosing. Oh, hey, this is your first day. Hey, we're getting ready. I'm gonna need you to sit over there. Can you go on to this side for me? You actually just completely disrespected and mocked and ridiculed and belittled and humiliated that child, because that child had enough confidence in themselves to be having their own interests and making their own choice, even where to do with their own person, which is still their person, so to speak. Because it's interesting, like how much of us do we belong to as we're minors? Because if we're actually autonomous, you can't mess around somebody's property or even their very person for an adult. But even for a child, if you can actually really, how much can you actually impact another person's free will, even as you're calling them a minor, before you would actually be overstepping something. But even if you were to do that, that child, they had enough confidence in themselves to sit where it seemed appropriate to them. They actually sat. Any child that gets on a bus for any reason, they sit exactly where it would seem most appropriate to sit at. That for them is they can understand that had been the most appropriate and or comfortable and or safe space to sit, whatever they had sat. But you actually just overrid that to do that over thing. So, everything that I think, all my instincts, all my happiness, all my confidence, all my even my some of my reservations about these other students, and even the bus driver himself, that must all be exactly not really anything, because that person must know better than all that. So that actual person knows better than my instincts, even as they're being friendly. But it actually didn't feel right to that child. When you ask that child, hey, can you sit over there instead? Just however you would say that, like to couch that, like with the way you would prepare statements to couch it, however you would couch a command to a student, try as you may, it's gonna feel nasty, because you transgress something of their actual autonomy and agency and free will as a conscious creative being to do that. And I just want to say that's actually technically violence par excellence. Whatever would wash over a child on their first day, they're happy to sit somewhere, and then, oh, that's okay, I'll sit over there instead. That's actually really profound violence, and that's the whole way through. So even by the time that, heaven forbid, students get to fighting later in school, like fighting their peers in middle school, or like girls fighting in middle school or high school, or boys fighting in high school and stuff like that, or maybe competing to get on teams, mocking the ones that didn't get on teams, mocking the ones that didn't start, and then they also fight like in practice or in games, whatever level of and then heaven forbid stuff happens in the parking lot or away from school, any degree of violence that happens at all, it's all very violent, but it's not actually more intense than just to ask a child on their first day of pre kindergarten to move somewhere else different than where it has seemed appropriate to them to sit. So from that standpoint, schools are riddled with so much violence the whole way through, so much of being there. No sooner is that before that child even knows their own name, they actually exist in some form of a database as a constituent member of a population zone, and that district has an interest in a purpose for that child. That child serves a purpose to the district as just simply as a number. and I don't mean to be egregious with that, but as a constituent, a better way to say constituent, as a constituent of any vicinity, municipality, region, zone, that child is an asset, represents a certain amount of benefit and entitlement, like in terms of broader subsidy, and like whether that be like uh, a tax subsidy or like some kind of like a school voucher. And so that vicinity, that municipality, many people, many adults, probably their family conspiring and agreeing to or not, but the family actually doesn't have a say in it ultimately. Because the family can have a say in how the district, in the zone, in the broader nation engages their students in their education, and what they're also their time on their hands that amounts to their childhood. The state apparatus actually owns your body your whole life, your productivity your whole life, and actually your childhood. The state actually owns a person's very childhood, because whatever a child is going to be doing during daytime hours, or even away from daytime hours, but with respect to what's demanded during the daytime working hours, that's all exactly owned by the district, the city, the county, the district, the town, the city, the county, the state, the region, the country, like that, and then probably broader things that we're not aware of. And so that all of that, a family may have oversight into how that is applied, how their child lands in that and is engaged, but they can't actually control that the child would be engaged with that. But all of that has a purpose for the child. The child's interests, talents, propensities, shortcomings, failures that all amount to their lessons and is them. It factors into that, but the deeper than that, that child, by this point, that child will pass this test, or something else will happen with that child. When something else happens with that child, for better or worse, that child will be in that venue so long until this other standard is placed upon them and demanded of them. And there's also standards to the staff members in school, but it amounts to is that a preconceived, form-fitted understanding and notion and prompting and compelling and exacting of where a child will be, whether they like it or not, whether they succeed or not. They shall be here by this point. Then that's actually violent right there, because it's overlaid upon them. And so, because it hasn't all been chosen for them. But I'm saying that all those different interests, that if you can appreciate how broadly I'm referencing, how loosely but also broadly I'm referencing, of how many interests, how many actors, how many adults, family members, distant family members, people that can be that are obvious, and also people that have that still have a bearing on that. Then they're all peers, people, students a little bit older, students a little bit younger, students much younger. Sometimes they can all have a bearing on what shall become of any particular student, and so there's a lot of hands in the pots of who we are, and in these schools, and it amounts to a lot of competition and fighting, and competition and conflict. And so all of that is violence. And so some people say that when this violence happens in schools like that, it's exactly makes sense, because the school itself is simply violent. And even the cool shit, like say like you got like dances and stuff like that, it's still technically violent, because some other students would have likely been excluded, or some people would be the cool ones there, and someone would be the not be as cool, and that's the pecking order, and the pecking order. But you can't, with human societies, you can't get past pecking orders, and we actually might be humans because of pecking orders, because we tend to want to stand up taller than one another. It must be why we stand on 2 feet as primates, and that affects the way that the blood sits in the brain. According to Osho, is that the blood saturates the brain less on 2 feet. So some of our higher orders of thinking are possible for first looking like that, seeming like that, then thinking like that, no less, at all points of that. And it's also interesting that according to psychology, is that one way to actually control a person, people think that you fix your face follows actually what your mental disposition is, but in actual psychology books, your mental disposition can follow your face. It's like a feedback. In the mind can inform the face, and the face can affect the mind also. And it's not actually one before the other. It's just a dynamic buoyancy and feedback that suits a setting of a circumstance. But even when things are working, there's always the haves and the having not. And for someone to enjoy something, even cool shit, there had to be likely someone that gets to have not, for someone to have something. So that's a lot of violence in the schools. But then on top of that, and this is the point, and some people have, like King Noble was to be so bold as to say that no one knows why sometimes people snap in schools, and then people snap outside of schools when they're grown, but also not different than being raised in schools, because you're a lot of what you were raised as. How is that happening, and God knows how that's happening, or the cause of that. But I want to say is that one thing that people may overlook is actually the diet that would attend that. So these like like right now, like I'll be on here a lot of times. I don't scrutinize the commentary because I can keep my train of thought. Like if I were to even read one comment, that your mind exactly changes with anything you perceive, so it'd be difficult to render some of the statements I'm attempting if I engage the dialogue a lot. But some of the like some I was joking about, but some like YouTube connoisseurs or consumers, customers will come in a feed like this and say some things that are like a little bit of a shot at a person. And if I wasn't getting shot at all day long my whole life, it might be more daunting. It's never nice when someone take a shot at you, and it's like sometimes it's a little, it can cost you a different degree of a threat or a slight or an injury to self-esteem and perception in the eyes of others, which are redouble. But it's not like nothing new. But also, I don't bat as much of an eye at it because I exercise and also I eat well. And I've always, since I've been an adult, I've been eating well. I've been exercising well and not because of circumstance and not, but I'm currently exercising well, but I've been eating well. But if I had not been eating well, an actual shot, it actually hit different. Like if I was actually eating just like a whole bunch of like stuff that can be called garbage without being actually literary or like egregious, or being condescending. If you actually were to consume junk food and then someone take a shot at you, it's gonna hit you differently because you actually don't have the resiliency, and because life is energy, you don't have the energy levels to transcend and look past and dismiss and go sail right on past something. Like according to Jorge Masvidal, when fighters are training, like when they're doing a camp for like a bout, when they're water deprived, like they have a thing of like cutting water to make weight, like for a venue, but also in the training leading up to a fight, they'll be water deprived. If a person were to sustain a blow, like say to the abdomen, like sometimes you see people online and they let people punch their stomach while they're working out and it look cool. If you actually had been water deprived, it wouldn't go over the same well, and it'll hit much different and hurt worse, according to Jorge Masvidal. But it might be similar with the mind, where if you're not actually eating the right stuff, maybe that too, drinking water, but if you're eating junk food and someone take a shot at you at your very mind, it can hit you way different, way different. Even heaven forbid, if your partner stepped out on you, it may hit you different based on your current level of fitness, and but not the least of which, it may be more so your current diet practices. So I think that sometimes when people are snapping off in these schools and stuff, worse than an alligator, is because, or in society, but also having been raised in schools, it had to do with the diet too. So I'm saying that the junk food is yet a drug, and some of the things, the actual, you would think that, okay, so we know drugs are bad, right? Because drugs are associated with violence, right? We see a horrible thing. We've always seen horrible things in the media happening so long to do about drugs, right? Some people, just to put a floater out there, some people have extrapolated that in the one. I think that whether this is true or not, some of the actual difficulty in the O.J. Simpson trial, right? Because like some people say, "Hey, man, that's open and shut case. That's open. That's common sense. That's open and shut case, right?" OJ had been the real person to do that squeeze. OJ was the real one that squeezed if something had got squeezed that night, right? But then why was it actually that difficult for the jury to appreciate or determine the actual cause, or at least the scenario of that horrible atrocity and assassination of Nicole Simpson and her boyfriend? I think his name was Ron Coleman. How is that? How is there any ambivalence about what actually happened that night? If her relationship with OJ was what it was, and people have their misgivings about him, it's because, not the least of which I would imagine it tended by, at least correlates to the fact that she was known to have a lifestyle. That one, Nicole Simpson. She was known to have a lifestyle that had to do with certain vicinities and scenes and things that happened in LA then and now. And she might not have been all the way good to go as that. So she might not have been all the way good to go in someone's mind other than him. And it had to do with that lifestyle. So I'm saying that, just to make a long story short, drugs, that might have actually been some of the ambivalence of the O.J. Simpson trial, is actually the lifestyle that she was having, and that's not different than or away from what's called drugs. So when drugs are involved, you don't know what the hell's going on. You don't know how it got that ratchet like that. All you know is that drugs were involved, and then this shit got ratchet. We don't know what the hell happened, but we got to clean up now. But there have been drugs involved. But then you wouldn't think that this junk food has anything to do with violence. Would you actually? So I'm saying is that entheogens, plant, animal, and mineral substances that can affect a person's mind. Like some people would pop up in this channel, like, "Hey, man, what's this about, man? You gotta be on this, da da da." But actually, no one has come in here and said that, "Hey, what entheogens are you on? Hey man, is that ayahuasca? Are you on ayahuasca? How did you prepare that? Ayahuasca? No man, this is I'm on something heavier than ayahuasca. Are you on San Pedro? I've heard of that. They say that ayahuasca is the queen of the jungle, and San Pedro is yet the king, and even more intense than ayahuasca. Is that San Pedro? Did you on? No one give me that kind of look. They say, "Hey man, has that been you on that you so are you what so I'm saying they would come up here and call me meth some people I like Method Man. Method Man's my one of my go tier. Some people might say like, what's your method to the madness? It would have to be some form of meth did to the madness you're coming with. But no one actually cite me as entheogens. But what I'm saying is that entheogens are not a problem in themselves. They may actually, you might actually look like whatever. So it'd be interesting if someone, if so, okay. So you come on here and say that you come on here. So and I'm not trying to take shots, but just for teachable. If someone were to come on here and have misgivings about whether I'm on meth or not, if I have meth in my system, if I had meth in my body in the last, I haven't had meth in my body recently, but if I had meth in my body in the last day at least, okay, no. I can say on here I have not consumed meth or anything that someone called a drug other than an antibiotic because I had sustained a laceration and I was getting support with antibiotics for it. Other than an antibiotic, today at least as I'm making this video, I haven't consumed damn it, I did consume coffee because I was up in the morning hours. I was late. It was technically past midnight. Did I? No, I think I did. I damn it, did I? Okay, I technically had some coffee last night, and I had a cookie that had sugar in it because that's another one. I didn't even go there with sugar yet. Oh hell, I didn't bring up sugar. I technically had some coffee and a cookie that had sugar in it by this calendar days. So damn it, but not since I woke up again today did I have even coffee. So I was about to try to flex that I didn't have coffee, even though I'm a coffee drinker. But and caffeine is a hard drug too. That's another hard drug, just to be honest. So is no one's perfect. But um, but if I were to ask you, okay, no, but what did you actually eat today? If we were to go tit for tat, someone may have misgivings about my coherence or what I've been consuming. But actually, I would actually spell out my choices in diet over the last day and going broader, and then someone too would come on here, based on the fact that you'd make a comment that's less than respectful towards another person. I would imagine that some of your actual diet choices are less than respectful towards yourself. I can read into that much just based on a simple comment. I don't think that someone who is disciplined, challenging themselves, and living their best life in and out the bedroom, in and out the gym, in and out the job, in and out of books, in and out of their relationships in life. I don't think that someone who's respecting themselves at all levels of that, because you have to respect others to respect yourself and yourself to respect others. I don't think someone who's actually congruent with all that so much as their diet would betray self-respect would make a comment that's affronting to another person. So I can extrapolate that you would have actually had to participate in drugs doing that because you likely would have consumed something that was useless or harmful that could be reasoned a drug like that. So I'm saying is that entheogen and nutrition are both food, but also um, uh, mind-altering substances that are appropriated, mass-produced, mass-sourced, and presented, advertised, and sold for a commercial purpose, whether RX and sanctioned by the state and or street and or different and or personal hobby, anything like that's arbitrary and can be appreciated as not being not of a as anything that has something of a corrupted source. If there's any corruption with any of that, it's a drug at that point. But so too, what's called junk food is actually as equally corrupt as what's called drugs, and as equally damaging to a person's mind and body as what's called drugs and their state of mind, and also to outcomes, not least of which violence. I'm saying that. So there is no now. I think entheogens can be done without violence and better than violence. And if people had ever got past violence, like say the Jaina people of India and their practicing of nonviolence, they would have had. I imagine our concept of nonviolence, I've extrapolated in the prior video, is attended by and not different than or can be correlated at least to the standpoint of the Jaina people in India and their sincere plight and testimony of living up to the principle and idea of nonviolence convincingly, presently, and probably iterations past. But I also imagine they would have been engaging in entheogens to have the sobriety to do that. Yeah, so entheogens can actually make you more sober. I'll be one to say that ganja can make you more sober. Ganja makes you more sober because whatever you're calling sober away from ganja, like your very counselors and preceptors inside of a detox venue, they may be pressing RX upon you as it's not skillful. They may be consuming RX themselves as it's not skillful. They may be consuming a lot of junk food themselves as it's not uh, uh, skillful, including drugs, including sugar, including caffeine, including chips, including maybe headache medicine that they could have dispensed with, including a lot of shit. These are actually very detox counselors and stuff like that are consuming drugs. And I had a person, not to just be like name dropping and stuff, but I had a person, like a savvy person I bumped into, say that the actual man who was credited with conceiving the principles of AA, the steps of AA, he did so under the influence of LSD. Believe it or not, that was a testimony from a learned man. I don't know if that's true or verifiable fact, but just if it's free, anything goes on the internet. Just to for the sake of teachable, for the sake of hearsay for the sake of hearsay. I've I've been I've encountered hearsay that the actual proponent and person that founded the Alcoholics Anonymous venue and designated a tiered step to do that was under the influence of LSD. So it may have taken LSD to get a lot of people off of alcohol. And I'm not judging that. But I'm saying is that some things actually make you more sober than the regular shit we do when we think we're sober, and we're also consuming things while thinking we're sober. Actually, things that actually can impact your mind, will, and body differently than normal circumstances, such as entheogens, can actually be more sober. And even ganja can, when it's done right. But anything can be done wrong. But I'm saying is that the actual junk food, the pop and chips and stuff like that, it is yet drugs in the hard sense of that word, and it's not outside of the realities that come with that. So say a person is taking in sugar, right? They're overdoing sugar and shit. Their body is gonna fail them. If or first their mind with emotions, probably your emotions will be the first thing to fail. Your emotions fail you. You know, your discipline fails you first. If anything, your discipline fails you, then your thoughts fail you. Then your thoughts with discipline while experiencing the sensation of emotion fail you. Then once the emotions fail you, then again your thoughts and discipline fail you because you start to choose wrong. Then more of your emotions fail you. Then also you're probably compensating for that with fast food, junk food, that is drugs. Then maybe also real, actual what is called drugs, as that's sanctioned by the FDA in America and not. And so anything that you do in America is going to be impacted by the FDA. Anything you consume is impacted by the FDA. Whether you consume something that is called illegal and then you suffer ramifications or repercussions of that, or you or someone you love suffers dangers in that, that's because at least the bearing of the FDA would have impacted that and made it more difficult or more likely for you to have some of the positive but not difficult outcomes that you would have doing drugs or maybe even food that's not sanctioned by the FDA, which are all the same thing. But then even things that are yet sanctioned by the FDA, like a lot of food in general and RX in general, and especially the way it's sourced and the way it's presented to people, and that people are encouraged and are actually influenced to consume it. That's as equally dangerous. But I'm saying is that even the stuff that's more benign seeming, like sugar, caffeine. If you're honest, I don't do sugar, but I do caffeine and then like the pop and chips and stuff like that, that's actually still drugs. And it actually, I think that pound for pound, it has equally as much fallout in terms of family statistics, society statistics, following family statistics, violence statistics, interpersonal violence, anonymous violence. I think that's actually attended by, that's not different than drugs. So like if you would say community violence from drugs, right? So if a child, say they live by a gas station that has pop and chips galore, right? And they're frequenting that gas station a lot, a lot, a lot. They're frequenting the gas station, and they're getting junk food that's interchangeable. Wherever you see the word junk food, you could also interpose that with the word drug, and you would not be coherent with that. So if a child is they're doing drugs now that is popping chips now, but it's actually equally as addicting, and then they're playing video games and fetishizing about weapons, what would someone in the streets be doing? What's called the streets, they'd be doing the same shit. Actually, they'd be consuming what's called drugs, both what they can get in a convenience store or maybe not far away from a convenience store. They'd be fetishizing about violence. They wouldn't be far away from violence. They'd be playing. They'd probably be spending time watching TV and video games is also part of violence, it's actually no different than someone that's not in the streets would be doing. And they're using the streets to get there. So everybody's exactly in the streets. But I'm saying that like some of these things that if that child did that and then they suffered some of the other competition and violence as part of schools and the frustration with that and the humiliation of that, they may actually resort to violence and amount to community violence the same way as someone in an actual real street life would. So there's actually no difference at any level of that. And I just wanted to point that out. But that wasn't the overall message of the video. Is that the deeper thing is that I was saying is like I was going off a little bit into on another video, someone was citing me about like maybe seeming like I didn't know what I was talking about at one point, and I think when that happened, I was talking about feudalism at that point, and I guess I didn't want to. So what I meant to say is that I was getting a little bit loose with my I was getting actually kind of a little bit half-assed, and but what I'm saying is that like if you look at the word compel and impel in the dictionary is actually as half-assed is how they would put that in there. And so we are compelled and impelled a lot of times in life, but it's all violence. And then so what I can understand in my experience as a person in the West is that people with learning, like in these videos, like I'm more so not stumbling over my words or even mispronouncing a lot of words because I read the words. Like there's no word that I've used on this channel that I haven't read somewhere in a book. Like I haven't used any words that I've just heard. You could mispronounce a word if you just heard it, but anything I'm referencing, I've either read it, the word I'm using, or read about it in a book, or I've had one-on-one intimate discourse dialogue interfacing with an actual eminent scholar on that, whether that be my very father, who is yet a scholar and a former professor and a leader at some different colleges in the north of the United States, and then also different eminent scholars that I've reached out to online and studied them. But I don't claim expertise, but just that I have actually looked into things and I'm familiar with the subjects at least to riff on them. But so I wouldn't have anything that I'm not referencing anything. I'm not speaking outside of something. Like I think to really not know what you're talking about, you have to actually be like a little bit fabricating things, or at least presenting like something that you have to be veering off of your real experience and what you're familiar with. But I know that a lot of our life now is a lot about I know that we have had a caste system all the way through, going back prior to the Christian church, but all the way through the Christian church, which is 2,000 years ostensibly. Some people say that that's actually not likely, that what we're calling the modern Christian era is not actually 2,000 years. The person, Jesus Christ, or who that's replicated on, was not actually 2,000 years ago, literally. Some people would say that. I've heard that argument. But that too, if what we're keeping track on, like this is the year 2026, it's called. Like you might sound that so I might look like enough of a jackass and idiot to pop out in here, but you would also look like enough of a jackass and idiot to think that this is really the year 2026 and that means anything at all. As much as I look like a jackass that knows jack shit, you actually sound like as much of a jackass that also knows jack shit about jack shit if you think that the number 2026 means anything other than feudalism, anything under, because it's like, okay, this is the year 2026 of what? 2026 of what? So there's this person that was so cool, so agreeable, that he got murdered, but also everything that happens on earth since that person was here, and that person also wasn't all the way loved, and they were also murdered when they're here, exactly corresponds to that person. Whether any caste, you can practice anything, you can be from anywhere in the world. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you're from India and you did real yoga, you studied with a real master in India that doesn't know English. Yoga, wow. And they taught you things that, like, solemn things like that in another language. Wow. When was that? What year was that? Oh, I don't actually subscribe to Christianity. Oh, so that would have been near about, and so but your master then, right? That was at least like 200 years ago, right? So all I'm saying is that wherever people are preaching about anything, people can't get past Christianity just in simply calling the time is that. So some people say that it's a common era to be savvy about that, but it still revolves around that. Whether you call it something or not, it revolves around the idea of a great person. That in itself is a form of what's called shirk in Islam, in making it an associate and partner of what and who's called God. Because what and who's called God suffers no associate at all, such as to be omnipotent and omniscient in the true sense, in true reverence. So I think that the actual notion I'll be so bold as to say that the notion of a Holy Trinity is a little bit actually blasphemy and idolatry, but more so idolatry is that it's the standpoint of a stratified society. That's what I'm saying. The church itself is a standpoint of stratification, because this one is a Messiah. No, this one is God. This one is God's Spirit. This one is God's Son. This one is the Pope. This one is the archdiocese. This one is the cardinal. This one is the regional person. This one is the priest. This one is the pastor. This one is the junior pastor. This one is the associate pastor. This one is the pastor's wife. Then that's on to the de facto side. We didn't get to the de facto side yet, because you also did have the devil. That's the de facto something there, because the devil sounds very important. That's de facto something. You also have the demons. That's the de facto something. You have the angels. That's the de facto. You have the archangels. You have the cherubim. Then you have the deacon. Then you have the leader of the choir. Then you have the coach or the head choir member. Then you have the associate head of the choir. Then you have the most junior choir member. Then you have the congregation. You might have the best singer. That's the de facto side in the congregation. Then you have the alms bearer. Then I would have been in the parking lot. I don't know where the parking lot attendant. If you want to ask me, what is your position in this thing? What is your stake in this thing? What's your real background? I had been over parking lot side, parking lot attendant. Wherever you had righteous things going on, like churches, services, cool things to do. Sometimes like all night revivals. Sometimes New Year's parties, stuff like that. I would have been near about the parking lot, and that's where I would do my thing, or I'd be blessed to be around the parking lot. If I didn't get closer to heaven or a good time, then and with respect on my hands, then the parking lot like that. But so I'm just saying that is so stratified like that. Then you have like a real prophet, a false prophet, then different people. Then you have like the youth side. You have different ranks. So this whole thing about church is such of a pecking order, and it's so ranked off like that. But it's actually inhumane at all that point, because to say we're all supposed to be born equal. We're all supposed to be born equal and under God, right? But how can God be better than you if you don't have the ability to do the same thing as God better than God? Think about that. How can God be automatically better? It's kind of like if you listen to like little kids playing, right? And sometimes when little kids are playing, they're like, "Oh, I'm this one over here, but I'm also this one over here, and mine's also 1,000. My strength level is 1,000, and yours only goes to 900. But I'm actually better than you, even though you didn't have a even fight with me. I'm also better than you, and my toys are also stronger. But I'm also better than you. Is me. That's how little kids will think. But it's actually the same thing with faith, is because it's like, if this one is the greatest, the great I am, who are you? If I am the great I am, or I'm not the great I am, who are you? And who are you not? Because if I'm great, how may I be greater than you if I can do what you cannot do? Because if I can do what you cannot do, how can I be greater than you? Because how could I have competed with you? To be greater than someone, you have to have the same you have to have a similar ground to contend. You have to have to establish who's greater. You have to actually contend to settle that, because how would you know? You'd have to prove it. That's going to be some form of contention, whether it's creative, musical, intellectual, anything. You actually have to settle that somehow. How do you actually amount to being the greatest without a fair play? And that's what someone would know. If you wanted to be like the greatest knight, you gotta let it all hang out. A real person that's great at anything, they'll let anybody try anything. Anybody can step to anyone to do anything, but then they also have to take what comes with that, right? But I'm not saying it has to be something horrible, but I'm just saying is that if there is one great and only one great, how did they become great if other ones didn't also have the ability to choose for themselves? Because if one is great, if the great I am is great, how did the great I am become the great? Can anyone imagine that? Fancy me this, riddle me this. The great I am. How did the great I am amount to be the great I am? With all the esteem, revere, worship, and name that comes with that. How did the greatest come to the greatest name? Maintain the greatest name. And how may the greatest further the greatest name? In one word. How did God become God, stay God, and become God is further? In one word. How could that happen? And be great for doing the. I would say it'd be the word choice. God is God because God chooses to be God and chooses as God to be God. But to choose, you have to have an option. So there has to be an option to not be God or to be different than God. But that too, for to be better than others, they would also have to have a choice, and you would also have to choose better than them, having the same similar choice to yet be better than them convincingly so. But so we're just handing is that some people are just simply great because they're just simply great, and there's nothing you can do. But that's the way it is. Da 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 da. That's just the way it is. Great is great. You are not. Great is great. You are not. That's just the way it is. Cool shit, fly shit is fly. Fly shit is fly. It doesn't matter what you got there in your head. That's just the way it is. So that's what we're giving, man. It's just the way it is, man. But the way it is actually a caste system, and it was the church has it's not been far away from feudalism the whole time. I can imagine that. So now we have digitalism, and everybody don't get to say to do the say do or be the same fly shit, even while saying doing and being the same or different shit. Not so in digitalism. But then prior to that, I think it was materialism, like in the like all the way from like the say that all the way since the whenever the flower generation stopped being like my dad, he'll be like, man, my dad, he's from the struggle in Africa, and then he came to America. My dad's of the age of the flower generation. He's of that same age. So is my mom. But my dad, he'll say, man, that hippie stuff wasn't nothing but some bullshit. My dad said that. I'm quoting a man, a real man from that era said that. He sounded like he meant that. He said, man, the hippie stuff wasn't nothing but some bullshit, because what became of those hippies? They got their self over onto corporate side. They got their corporate jobs. They're the same baby. That's also the baby boomer generation. The hippie generation is the baby boomers. My dad says, and he's actually guilty of it too, the baby boomers sold us out. There's a lot of people. My dad's not the only. If you go online, a lot of people proliferate. There's a channel called Legion of Men. They said that there too. The baby boomers sold our ass out. I went to California this summer because I have a family member out there. I was a refugee. I was an intercountry refugee because I have my reasons to leave. I get to where I have a people at, and I got jilted by my own family. Sold my ass out. I didn't come there broke, man. I came there on a damn Harley. Not to put my business out there. I came out there on a Harley. This is the year 2026. That happened in 25, the middle 25. I came out there on a yet 25-year model Harley to California off for some bullshit to figure it out. But do you know my family member wouldn't have nothing to do with me since the day I got there on hard times like that with the damn Harley, mind you. I didn't come there. I don't come there off the Greyhound. I didn't show up at family members off the Greyhound. I showed up there off the Harley, and I could think well enough for myself to get a 25 Harley. I could think well enough in life to get my hands on my own 25 Harley and know and say and choose what the hell to do with it. And if I got pulled over with it anywhere in any of the 50 states, I could just show them a little paper and it was good to go. That's my shit. Very well, take your shit on like that. So I'm not the worst person that I amounted to a Harley like that. But also, I showed up on a Harley, not a Greyhound. Not that there's anything wrong with the Greyhound, but I showed up on a Harley. I didn't hitchhike. I didn't get a ride. I didn't get a ticket that I didn't pay for. I didn't take a more economical means that I also paid for. I got out there on a Harley, so I could think for myself enough to get a Harley. But my family wouldn't have enough to do with me, even for a couple of days. That would have helped me land somewhere with a Harley and figure some cool shit out to do in Cal. Are you without a criminal record, right? If you didn't have a criminal record and you were a healthy, viable adult, also with a motorcycle that was on your hands in California, could you think of something cool to do to make money ethically, legally, as you don't have anything preventing employment? With the Harley, could you think of that to do? But my family member said, nah, man, fuck out of here like that. So she had been a baby boomer that sold me out. So they say that the baby boomers sold all of us out like that. And I'm not taking shots at like intergenerational, because that's also prejudice. But just to speak for a greater message is that they say that the baby boomers exactly sold us out. That is the hippies sold us out. Not that someone had to think like anything to be anything, but so what I'm saying is that whenever and my dad says the reason my dad says that is because they were talking that peace talk, that barefooted talk, that pretzel salad talk, that free love talk, that PDA talk, that ganja talk, maybe even some of that LSD talk, maybe the same LSD that got us the AA talk, that get off of alcohol talk, that get off the system, get off the man, get off this war bullshit, get off all this bullshit. But they somehow got back to business as usual, such as that we had things go back to business as usual and never stop being horrible. So I'm saying that wherever things stop being about the war period and the the war movement and the anti-war movement of the of the civil rights era, it somehow became materialism after that point, I think. And so I think now our digital metrics and stratification and caste system is digitalism, and there's a heavy within that. you need wiggle room, and you need different different casting mechanisms, especially words and schedule designations. Such is the convenient the real, what is the function of drugs, right? Conjunction, junction. What's your function? Druggy, druggy, druggedness, RX, RX. What's your function? The function of the drugs in America, in the West, is to have a pretext and a cause to place someone, to situate someone inside of a caste system. So if you're a doctor, if you're a medical professional, if you're a pharmacist, you might think you're getting the better end of that. You're actually not, because you're still beholden to the insurance company, but you got a better seat to the show. Then, if you're a customer, like you're a patient, you divulge statements for mental health, which can be arbitrary because it's ostensibly a professional opinion, not an actual provable constitution of the physical specimen of a human being. Like, so I could be, I'm making this video now, right? I can confirm that I'm not partaking of anything recently or under the influence of anything, so I'm making this. But if there were the word get out, whether I had or not, but if the word got out, as some people may have fixed in the comments, that I had been under the influence of anything, that would entirely change the inflection and meaning of all things I've said. That could potentially underwrite and falsify all the statements I've made, even were they the God's honest truth, the gospel, no less. If I had gone in here and quoted scripture, the gospel, that's the exception proves the rule, right? So if I actually came, people were like, "What are you? Are you on this one? Are you on that?" If I actually came and said, "Hey, man, I just doing something about 20 minutes ago," man, I suggest that everybody stay off the street. If you can, stay away from all that shit. Because I was doing that like 20 minutes ago. That shit is wrong too. Also, stay away from like fornicating. Like, if you're not married, because it's wrong, man. Because I was with somebody. I'm not. I think I saw her. I think, you know. I was with somebody today, man. It wasn't right, man. I'm just saying it wasn't right, man. Because I know that it just wasn't right. You know. I think that she has someone to care about. I'm on the street right now, man. But I know she got someone to care about her, and you know, we did what we did today, just this morning, man. And then I was, you know what I'm saying, and I hit a little bit of something, but all that stuff is wrong. I'm gonna say right now, fornication is wrong, adultery is wrong, and using drugs is wrong, man. But if you will join me and believe in the greatest person who had ever been here, even greater than any of that, greater than any of that, it says it right here in this book. So I'm gonna read for right now. But I used to go to church a lot. I used to go a lot to church, and it was some crazy stuff that happened. Like, even like when I was, you know, it's crazy, like around church like that. But I got better than that. You know, I'm better than that. I was always better than that. But it just gave me this problem where, like, I can't, like, when I meet beautiful women, like, I have this thing that's like dark side of me, and like the women, they have a dark side of them too, and it's just it recognize, we just like, we can't help but like reenact like what we had been through, like me and these beautiful women, the adult women, you know. We can't help, and it always happens. Like, it just happened today again, you know. But when I was in the church like that, I used to really read the Bible a lot. So I actually consigned it to my heart. I actually I entered the Bible into my heart at one point. I had cleaned up for like a little while. I was still doing the same stuff then, but I cleaned up for a little while, and then I put the scripture in my heart, and so it's still in my heart. So I was, and like I said, oh yeah, but like I was saying, that shit, that street stuff is not where it's at, man. But what, if you'll join me, I want to read a scripture today. It's actually, I'm not gonna read it. I'm gonna read it from my heart. Now, if I said that part right there, that's actually pivotal right there. If I was about to read it, if I was talking like that, right, but then I was also saying something in the name of one great, someone might rock with all that if I had an actual Bible in front of me, right? So you don't know what this book is, right? So, man, what the hell are you into these days, man? What? So what? Wait, what does it do to come out here, man? Have you been to college before? Have you even been to college to come out here? Okay, I have been to college, but when you were in college, did you can you think of anything that would have been cool? Like, when you're in college, did you ever go like to the town square in college? Did you ever like check out like some political stuff or anything cool at the actual town square in college? If you did or did not, can you think of something that would have been cooler that someone would come up there singing right there, right? Like singing song. Like, do you think that's cool to sing songs like in front of like a shelter, Do you think that it's cool to like dance like Michael Jackson and like wear long like hair and stuff and like actually sing songs to people who are in a shelter? And would it be cooler if you were not also in the shelter or you're in the shelter with them? Would it be cool if you just say, "Hey man, I met this guy, man. He's so I don't know, I'm not talking about me, but a lady might say, man, I met this guy. He's so dreamy, man. You know what he does? Like he'll get up like so he works like 6 days a week, but on Monday." He has this thing where he'll take time off on Monday and then he'll go up to the shelter and he'll sing songs for them like because they make them stand outside the, even when it's cold they make them stand outside the shelter before they let them back into the shelter like to eat. And so when it can be like you have to stand around and get boring and stuff or it get cold. So this guy, man, he'll go out there and he'll sing songs for them, but it's also for himself because it's like he said it's like it's more real like when he sings it for himself. And so he's like being there with them like at the shelter, he's like really there with them. And he'll just take the whole morning off like that on a Monday, and he'll sing songs like for the people at the shelter like that. And like he volunteered because they he wanted to like to help like with the food like with the kitchen, but they already had enough hands on deck. So he said, "Hey man, it's cool, man. I'll go sing outside, man. I'll just sing a song like that." So would that be cool, or would it be cool if he but he also stayed there? But yeah, but he wanted to really get the whole experience. So he put his house for Airbnb, and all the money from the proceeds for the Airbnb are donated because he's only gonna keep enough of it at the end, like when he gets his taxes back to buy a tent, and then he's gonna go backpacking and hiking in Europe without anything to his name like that. But he's also very healthy and savvy like that in Europe, nothing more than tent. But right now he still owns the house, but it's actually being cared for. It's being leveraged as Airbnb, but the proceeds are going to the same shelter. And then as soon as it's done, he's not gonna keep nothing more than 10. So he's actually like almost already out of the house. And so he figured that rather than him like go waste the money or take the money from the Airbnb to go to like a fancy hotel and like go sit somewhere like on top of a roof, he's actually gonna just stay at the shelter so he can find like what the experience is about and actually feel what their story's about so he can sing their song better and then now his song better and be more like congruent like that. That's this guy, man, like that. Now would that sound cool or not? But then if someone's like that too, and then it's like um they had uh so they had uh they were like that or not, and then or they look like that or they be that type of person or not. Would that person that did that, would he be cool because he had a college degree or not? Or then if he was at college, around a college, a guy like that, can you think of something cooler? Can you think of something cooler than to go to a shelter and sing songs, but you also are like you can carry a song because you've been practicing and looking into singing, right? Or if you were at it, and how would you get the background to do that, whether you had a college degree or not? Then if you're at a college campus as a student or not, as a visitor or not, and also had been a student once or not, can you think of anything cooler in the town square of a college than to sing songs? Because you can go to a town square and you can talk like stuff like maybe some of the historical stuff I talk on the video, or like you can talk about rights stuff, political stuff, but you could also come to a head about that. But there might be actually nothing cooler than where you do that and you're singing songs at the town square, right? Like I think they had this place called Speakers Corner in London where they do that, and maybe they emulate that in the rest of the country. But what if they had been there singing songs at Speakers Corner? Do you know anyone that would be like you're interested to sing a song at Speakers Corner? Because you still have to stand up. You have to live by like your rep, and you have to get it how you live, and you still have to be accountable to like what you present if yourself publicly, if it's anything at all, even music, even speaking. So that might actually be a little bit like maybe to go to like a shelter and sing from a shelter, or to go to town square in like in England, like and sing songs there instead of get political, or maybe even as part of political too, because that's not wrong too. But then even if you had been in college and you had seen that at college or not, did you ever see when you were in college a book like this? It's called Complete Handbook of Voice Training by Alderson, by Richard Alderson. It's a really great book. So some people would make think that I'm not like been to college or like not like versed enough to be talking at all. But actually I'm versed enough to procure that book, Complete Handbook of Voice Training by Richard Alderson, and I can understand the words in there, and then like appreciate stuff like that. But so if I were to be like say I had just come off the street, like I had not been not too far away from a shelter, and like I just got off what like some most women according to India, all women are actually married, whether you know who she's in a relationship with most all women are in some form of relationship, in some form of bonding to another person, especially a male. There's no woman that's not bonded to some man or male in her life, especially like a lover. Not unless you're like, if you were to imagine a woman who was like, who um, had never actually formed a meaningful connection to another male by the time that she was already like, especially like a member of majority, that's anachronistic. That's a concept from another time. But even now, presently, you there's no woman that's not very meaningful to another man or male, and that also is not that doesn't have a man or male that's very meaningful to her. So all women are actually married. So if I were to come on here and I had just had a significant experience with any woman anyhow that's adult, as it's legal and ethical, that was actually someone's wife right there. And so if I were to do that and I presented myself, I was believable as that, and then somewhere, if that had been the case, a lot of people might like mock a person like that. But I'm just saying that it's conceivable that a person could be like I appear and have an experience like that, or not, because I'm healthy enough to like enjoy things like that. Then if I had done just been with someone's wife, so to speak, whether literally or not, but if for intensive person, I had just been with someone's wife, and I just came off of something like that no more than 20 minutes ago, today, this morning, 20 minutes ago. Then if I start talking scripture, I might be believable like that. So anything else I would say, like, it would be cool or not, funny or not, but it's not actually, it's not like I think veracity is like the truth. It's not actually solid. It's not actually reputable, unless it's if it's coming off of a drug, if it's associated with a drug. If I'm talking like this at all, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be respected for to talk about anything being associated with a drug, about anything, unless I were to say some cool, sexy shit, funny shit. That also, a lot of funny shit, it pays homage to the status quo. So I'd have to, for me to come here and make a statement coming off of any drug or being associated with any drug, and divulging, conceding use of any drug at any point, but even not the least of which the present day last half hour, I wouldn't be respected unless I said something exactly that pays homage to the status quo. That is, I would have to either quote scripture verbatim from a book, likely, to be respected. But you didn't know what the book was about, but I just got a book here, right? I would have, if I could come here. I just got done spending time with someone's wife. That is someone that means something to another man, or man means something to her, and she's of legal age. Someone's wife. I'd have to, if I were to, if I were just coming off of that and using drugs together. So that's technically, that would be, that's fornication, and or adultery, and or drug use. I'm not sure that gluttony would probably be the sin that would be part of. The only way I can imagine a drug being a sin would be like maybe being like a wino, like a drunkard. That's some form of sin, but I don't know what the actual name of drunkenness is. In the biblical sense, I don't know what the biblical designation of drunkenness is, other than being a drunkard. Because I heard drunkards referred to and dismissed in biblical texts, but I haven't actually heard the sin of that. The only sin I can think of verbatim would be gluttony. So if I came here with the gluttony for and with and on drugs, and or fornication and or adultery, how a person would appreciate that, I could still be viable and respected, and a lot of people might rock with me if it paid homage to the status quo. That is, if I was to quote scripture or faith based on a sanctioned, respected world religion, likely with a corresponding text that has been vetted. The more significant point being that it's vetted. That means it's under the auspices of a church, a creed, and a broader people who collectively have political pull that amount to a position within and viability within the status quo, which is the status quo. Or I'd have to say some sexy shit, or some. Now the sexy shit is also part of the status quo, because most people are inundated or raised in the status quo. So if a woman likes you, if a pretty woman, the whole time school is about fighting, it's about power, and it's about change, it's about control. But within that, beautiful people have graces within that, and they get the better end of that a lot, and a lot of that is catering to them. So it's so that we can be viable to sexy people who also appreciate the status and advantage and privilege that's conferred by school when it works well, as it's intended to work for who it's intended to work for. So that by the time that a beautiful woman who would actually be influential within any formal setting, including a school, because everyone exactly favors and caters and kowtows before beautiful people in and out of school, in and out of institution, but not the least of which in schools and institutions and in the street. About an actual beautiful woman is a sponsor and sponsored by institutions, schools, the streets, academia, religious clergy, spiritual settings, her own presence. A real, actual, beautiful person is largely self-validating and validated. Most people say, "Hey, man, you're not self-validated." Most people who actually are convincing as being self-validated or have the confidence to be self-validated is because they were prior validated by a beautiful enough woman that convinced them to convince themselves to be self-validated. So in this society, there's actually not a lot of validation outside of a woman's graces, and that's almost probably back to the nighttime. I'm not trying to change the game. I'm just saying that how I see the game. So that if I came in here and I associated myself, or I was it was blatant that I had participated, thereby associated myself with reckless drug use, and or reckless like things like fornication, and or adultery, which are almost synonymous. That in itself wouldn't get. I could still be viable if I'm still viable to the status quo. That is, if I pay credence to a world faith, and if I'm still verbally coherent, then I'm believable. But if I pass the point of being verbally coherent, then I may not really be viable unless I was like simply hilarious or really profound like that. But because the exception proves the rule, so you could also be profound. But by the time that, but if I were to like come off of, oh man, y'all, I recommend to stay off the street, man. I just got done 20 minutes ago. If I seem like I would be viable in front of a beautiful woman, or I just came from a beautiful woman convincingly, I'm actually still sponsored by status quo, because most women are brainwashed and also buy into and are benefited by, and therefore are not soon to dispense with the status quo itself. So they actually are the status quo itself and the representative of it. So if I was in here and I look like I don't got my shit together, but also like I still have the graces of beautiful women, I'm still actually having the graces of the status quo at that point. But then, if I were to say something that's hilarious, like if I were really funny, like even if I had an affected speech, like if you had this talk, the thing of it was because I was really asking who did frame Roger Rabbit, and how the hell did they frame Roger Rabbit, and what's Roger Rabbit doing if they frame him? Is he still upstate somewhere, and is he been taking care of his health? He'd have to be jacked by now, Roger Rabbit. That's speaking affected like that. So if I were speaking affected, I could yet still be hilarious and maybe a little bit profound if in my being hilarious or profound, I paid credence to the status quo. So if I'm being profound, right, I may have, I'm visibly compromised or at least recently influenced by reckless drug use and or reckless womanizing, um, and or reckless drug use to the point of being affected in speech. I could still be hilarious if my humor paid deprecation, homage, reference to the status quo, and then I also took shots at others. That is to mock other people and condemn other people based on my brilliance and also some of my even shortcoming, leverage against their awkwardness or lack of belonging to the status quo. That is to mock them, dismiss them, clown them like that, or maybe even myself like that, but then still being part of the status quo for doing that towards myself, or mock the status quo, but in such a way as still makes the status quo look good. That is still viable like that. Then if I were to say something profound, like really enlightening, while with all that going on or not, but even the affected speech or not, with reference with reference to either a sanctioned creed, their status quo, uh, generally blatantly, and or beautiful woman, or my being viable to beautiful women or not, the profundity would still have to pay homage to the status quo. Is that if this person's saying that, he must really actually seem cool to different tiers of the status quo. These different like professors would probably like what he's saying. Beautiful women would probably like he's saying. Other men would probably like what he's saying because professors and beautiful women would like he's saying. Stuff like that. It must make he could make a lot of money saying that. That money could be redeemed within the status quo. Then I'd still be okay like that. So I'm just pointing out how significant that is. But then if I were to do all that, and then I was about to make some righteous comments based on scripture that I had consigned to my heart, and I'm looking affected like that, but I still am versed in the scripture because they had meant a lot to me then, and I'm actually so much about the scriptures that I'm competent and I'm versed in them and a conversant in them, whether under influence or not. That in itself is actually a degree of profundity and sincerity. But so too, I may not be respected if it were consigned to my heart because it's a little bit personal. That's your own thing right there. That's your own greatness. But if I was talking like all that, I recommend that people don't fornicate. And I'm just gonna testimony that I was doing. I came from a lifestyle of fornicating, drug using recently, is half an hour ago. But I wanted to show you that this is what the light's about. So I'm gonna show you this book. I'm gonna read a passage from this book real quick. Now I'm not actually gonna read from this book. I'm not reading from this book here. But if I were to sound like that and come in here and then read from what you think is the Holy Bible, if I didn't even show you the name of it or anything, I just was like, I'm just gonna read real quick. You think, oh, he has a blue Bible. Hang on a second. I know it's in here. This is what, um, this is what I'm gonna show you. Okay, so this is my favorite. I have my favorite. You know, I'm not gonna be false. I'm just gonna present it a little bit savvy. I had done all that, but I didn't actually show the name of the book or what the book is about. I just conceded that I'm not really conceding, but if I for hey, what's up? So I'm back. I just had to get a little charge. You know, just a little half-ass. The afternoon half-ass show. I had to get a little half-ass charge. Okay, they only got about a quarter percent back up and get some more reckless shit out of my mouth. But so sometimes I was making a video a couple days and it's like, hey man, if you take your ass on back to college, man, someone might actually give a damn what you got to say. That ain't the worst thing, but I think college is the worst thing, but that ain't the worst thing to say. But the thing is, like, sometimes like these job applications say like, oh, so how much of college have you been to college before? What's your level of education? If you think that you can estimate someone's education by how they would check a box like that, even if you think a title says, if you think a sense of entitlement is part of education, that is an oxymoron. It might actually be an oxymoron to confer a title for education, because education is the furthest thing from entitlement. A lesson ain't about some entitled shit. You get a lesson by being entitled, but a lesson will teach you anything but entitlement. So it's actually a little bit of a dumbass question just to say like, what's your level of education? But like, a better thing to say like, what's your level of education, would actually just be to ask a question that would exactly reveal education. So like, something is called like a shibboleth. So like a certain word, like in biblical times, a real password is called a shibboleth. That's like one of the first videos that I did on this channel. And it's like, it'll exactly reveal, if you were to say a certain word, it'll actually reveal some of your real ethnicity and potentially like your allegiance in biblical times to pronounce the word or not. But some actual questions could be like that. So do you know what self-plagiarism is? And like, can you conceive why self-plagiarism would be a thing? Or like, are you just like, one thing would be like, if you just had a questionnaire for a job application, describe in one paragraph what self-plagiarism is. If you can describe that, you would have to get a little bit through school and have maybe some opportunities to self-plagiarize yourself to do that. But also, if you're actually applying to be, because some the coolest shit, right? The coolest shit, right? Hey, you did not respect my authority. But how do you have authority? Like, there's a couple kinds of authority, at least, right? So you have like Cartman, like he's hilarious, right? Cartman, he was hilarious because like he was handed some authority, and he's gonna make sure you respect his authority because he had been handed, because this is his now. He was handed this is my authority. But a person like Cartman, he actually already had authority before it'd be handed to him, because you actually assume authority. So Cartman, he assumes a lot. So that's a good example of authority, is that real authority, but even cool ass shit, you actually assume it, assume the position. So like, so I just want to say, this is my orientation. I just want to say, I identify, you know, this is the recovery group. And my orientation is that of a dom. I like to dominate people ass like that. I like to dominate some shit like that. So like someone just hop out the comment, right? So you talk that shit, you talk that dom shit, right? Like but that's how I identify, right? I identify as the dominant one, right? Yeah, me. No, 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 no. Yeah, I know. But I want to be the dominant one. I'm saying I identify as the dom. Nice to meet you. My name's Dom. Oh, Dom, where's that come from? My name's Dom because I had been given a different name, but then I grew into my real purpose and my real path, and I found out that my name is to dom, is to be like to dominate shit. So I'm about to dominate this job interview. I'm about to dominate the fucking competition, because I don't think they've been getting after it like that. And if you give me a chance, I like to dominate with the job, do it very well, then succeed in the organization, climb up the ranks, dominate the ranks, and if the opportunity for myself become your peer, then beat you. If according to the job description, then tell you what to do, and then become friends with the owner, become lovers with the owner, whatever their orientation or gender, and then be the dominant one. That's me. I'm dom. I dominate like that. I dominate shit, man. You gonna fight like that, right? Or if you came to the opposite, is that my name's Sub Zero. I like to play the sub. Everywhere I go, I submit I submit my candidacy to be subordinate, and I like to sub. I like my favorite number is the number zero, because I like to be treated cold-hearted. I like it when I'm very cold, and I like to sub. I like to be sub in all things, and also I like to be treated like a zero. And I also like when I'm done with it, I also like checks and money, and I like there to be a lot of zeros on the paycheck or anything. But usually to be a right sub, you need at least one that would be dominant. So when I get paid, I like one. I always like the number one to be first. I don't try to be one. I don't identify as the number one, but I do like to be with the number one, and I feel like a better zero when I'm next to the number one. And I like when people go all the way like 10 or 100 like that. I like it all the way 10 like that or 100 like that. But I don't necessarily take the place of one. But when I get paid, I like it to be the one on the check, and then I like a lot of zeros. It's kind of like for me, it's kind of like kinky. Some people call it kinky or dark or sexy, but I just think it's something else out of this world. Because like when I'm going on down the road and like I see other people's stuff, like sometimes like I see people that they apply as the dom, and then it doesn't work out, and then they have to walk, and then when I see them get like messed over and sometimes even victimized, I like to like I think about like it's kind of like angelic to me, like when I see people get victimized, and then when I can continue to go down the road because the zeros in on my check next to the one, it affords me the resources and the support and viability to keep on going past and learn about and then see past about and continue to be sub after I saw another lesser dom get victimized. That it's just like a dark thrill of it. So, and it's just me, it's just how I identify. I just identify as the sub, and I like to be treated like a zero, and I also like a lot of zeros, and I like doms, but not too much. So just like the number one dom, and then a lot of zeros. That's how I identify. But all I'm saying is that how would you actually know what is your as you're acting, not maybe how you're inclined or how you feel, but as you're acting, how do you get to act like a sub? How do you get to act like a dom? How do you get to act like a boy? How do you get to act like a girl? Whether or not, before or not, until it's not, and after it's not uh, viable on any other metric. It is plain and simple. As the buck stops, as your ability to choose for yourself stops, as your ability to add on or take off anything stops, to buy anything or to not buy anything, to meet anyone, to not meet anyone, to play with anyone, to get played on by anyone, to get in and out of anything. What's the buck stop about what is a person's in orientation in a scenario, whether personal, professional, intimate, academic, anything? Your actual, what your role is what you assume. So if you assume the dominant position, you have now assumed the dominant position. And if you have entered that, if you are allowed to enter the stance of being dominant, you are now in the stance of that one is dominant. That's a part of the position and function and viability of being dominant. So too of being sub or subordinate. So just to assume things is actually deeper than it seems. But all I'm saying is that uh um humor, like all I'm saying is that, like, so if you some things, they're not like when you repeat certain things, like it's not as good. It's self-plagiarism. But even like to repeat a joke is actually self-plagiarism, and people can sniff that, and it's not as funny. But there's some police officer like standing, like there's some people that look very serious, and then I came out there and I was like, hey, I just wanted to know, I saw you guys standing around and it looked very tense, and I wanted to say that they came in close, and they thought I was like, there had been, I know that there's someone very dangerous in this area, and I thought, that is this about that person? Like that would be egregious right there, because I'm actually asking. I didn't say that much. That's actually like that's different there. But as the humor goes, I was like, I just said it more quick and lighthearted. I was like, yeah, man, I saw you guys like looking like a little bit tense, and I heard that there's someone very dangerous around here named Nothing. And so I saw you guys looking tense. Is this much to do about nothing? Is this that much to do about nothing? And they thought that was kind of funny, but you gotta practice things to be clever with it. But also, if you repeat a joke, even like your own joke that you just that you just made a couple minutes ago. But what I was saying, the reason I started this video out is I was saying that the best form of contraband. So the best thing we have going for us in life and in any setting, the best way to get on with other people, to be liked by other people, and to survive not being liked by other people, to survive with ourselves, and to survive with ourselves and with other people, is contraband. And so I got that from another YouTuber who had been incarcerated. He said that contraband is the most consequential thing in a prison, even beyond the authority of the guards, even beyond the like the guiles of people, in some of the actual politics. And as part of the politics is actually contraband. It fixed. Like if you've ever been into a setting that's like a social setting with people that are from a lot of different backgrounds, but that people that can be cut any different way, and you don't know what flies and what doesn't. A lot of times, what's going to be very significant is actually the contraband and the different physical implications of like would be like a TV can be a big deal. Snacks can be a big deal even for adults because it's still actually food at that point. Food and drug are the same thing, and so even candy is actually a form of food and is a form of drug. So it's actually consequential in any setting, even like incarceration or like some kind of therapy setting is contraband. But then the greater form of contraband is like books, because I started off on that rant of that last video, is that real money has to do with precious metals, and those metals also have to do when they're as they're understood to the alchemists that gave us some of our concepts about even that are replicated in these schools. Your real actual prosperity and fortune and misfortune, it's actually cyclical, and it's a contingent upon greater influences and greater seasons and activities of other people that are both calibrated. Is this within that sphere of activity, and so that economy, that ecosystem. So you're but it's broader than an ecosystem, because an ecosystem refers to what's living now. But this system is, it's not only what's living now, but what had been, is now, and may yet live, and may yet come back and forth. Because that the broader cycles of fortune are broader than what's actually living. Because some of what you have for fortune, that's based on the capital, that is the access to standing within means of production and control of means of production. Some of your health, your location. Like, so I was born in America. Like, a lot of people on this channel say, "Hey man, you're fucking American. You're talking the African stuff to each your own." But it can be arbitrary, because what someone may not know. Like, you may pop on this video and you say, "Yeah man, you look like a damn American to me. You sound like American to me. You're talking this Africa, this and that," and you know what the struggle of being African in America is about, or African at all. But I will say that I grew up in an African household. So my father, he recently immigrated to the United States, probably within less than 6 years of when I was born. So he had a very pronounced accent his entire life, and while in the house with me. And some of his shortcomings as a man are a function of xenophobia and what he had to undergo with xenophobia and the conflict in this country, even some of which stemming from my own family on my mother's side. And so I actually was not away from some of the implications of xenophobia and some of the things that are endemic to African people living in Africa and the diaspora, because some of his behaviors would have been a part of what he experienced in Africa and was still existing as and replicating in his own life, and that to my life as his child. But he actually was an African man, unequivocally, and I grew up in his home, under his roof, under his authority, and also having experiences with other people. He was a friendly. He had a lot of friends, so I grew up with friends of his and a few family that I met seldom. But I grew up with largely friends of his who were African, living in America, sometimes not having been here for more than a few months or a few years, if that. So I grew up in and amongst a lot of Africans at African parties, but also I had Africans in my life. Then my best friend from my actual first memories in this life are with my best friend, who is a semi-lifelong friend, who taught me how to ride a bike, and was like, I was spending time with him by my first memories. Then I moved away, and I befriended him again when I came back from middle school, and I was friends with him all the way up until becoming an early adult. That sounds long now, but as an adult, that wasn't a lot of years, but for a young developing person, that's a lot. And they were African. They were African speaking and African citizens when they had not yet naturalized, but they did after that. But I would be spending time in their house, and actually African household. Me and him, we were so much of friends that I couldn't, even to this day, if I see anyone that knows me at that time, they're gonna have to know about him, because we were exactly associated to the point of being codependent and like experiencing something called transference. And so we were more than we weren't lovers. We were anything but lovers, but we weren't not having love for each other, and we were closer than brothers, closer than friends, while not being lovers and while being competition for other lovers. But we were very, very much of friends and close. So much is that we couldn't even stand how much we can't stand each other, but also how we can't help but be friends while we can't stand each other as much. Is how we were actually really we were really close like that, and we clicked like that as we appreciated and as we couldn't get past it. And he was yet African, and I spent time with his parents who were yet African. Um, but more than that, I bear a blatantly and distinctly African name that's inherited from my own people that my father comes from, and I'm familiar with a lot of aspects of the history, my dad's history, my family's history, and our culture. While not experience, and then that too, I spent time on a reservation as a child. So you are your formative experiences. When I was a child, my father attempted to relocate to Africa. So when I think I was about four or so, I spent somewhere between a couple months and half a year in Africa as a child on the reservation with my cousins in Africa on the reservation. And those are also some of my first formative memories, like driving in cars at night, being like they didn't have TV all times of the day. Sometimes the TV just be blank like that and it just got some colors. And so we just had to like we didn't get to watch TV, but then the TV would come on. It'd be like African TV. I grew up with my cousin. Um, she's a beautiful. She doesn't look like she did as a child now. Um, I'll just say my cousin Kay. Dang, that's crazy. Now I actually, there's some things make you feel old. I can't think of her name. I used to remember her well. Um, 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 Damn, I forgot. I had a female cousin that I was close to, and she got. I hadn't thought about her in so long, but I always felt like I knew her my whole childhood. Cause like when children make a friend, when a child knows someone, that person is always in the child's life, whether they're present with the child or not. Once a child has had an experience with someone, so my cousins in Africa, as far as I knew, they were still my cousins, and we were as much friends now, not having seen them, and I guess I wouldn't get to see them very much a lot after that, as in when I had been spending time with them, but. Um, uh, what was her name? Um, I had a female cousin, and she was like, when we were like in Africa, they eat they eat the meat all the way down to the bone, but then they also suck the marrow out of the meat. So my cousin, she would begin after she would crack the bones, and she'd eat the marrow out of that. Just a cultural thing is that like just to reference like growing up around that culture, but that I wasn't there for a long time. But that's for relatively speaking for a child, that's a long time in the experience of a child, and that's formative for a child. And then my name is very African sounding, and so a lot of my life I've experienced xenophobia and some of the ostracism, and sometimes seldom the blessing that come with appearing African and African leaning seeming, while also being in America, and the ambivalence of that, and at times the struggle of that, just based off my name and the fact that I can't actually, even to this day, no, at no point in my life can I introduce myself with my name, my affluent name, and it not either cause like conflict, like in terms of xenophobia, or like a side discussion and a topic unto itself, and next to that will exactly monopolize and commandeer was the word I was looking for earlier in this video. When the military appropriates something like an asset that's called commandeering, so our bank accounts can be commandeered at any point for intensive purposes, is where I was going with that comment. But in the prior part of this video, but I can't actually introduce myself with my name, and I not be exactly associated with African and looked at as an African in that person's eyes by and large just by my name. So I can't not be African in America while bearing my name in public. But I more so go by Dan now because I yet had a ancestor who was a historical figure in the time of that war, that I referenced in the prior video. That I was referencing the war of 1904 to 1908. In that video, someone said you're not really African, but also one of my descendants, my great either great or great great grandfather was named Daniel Kavedamba, and he was involved in that he was a formidable fighter in the war of 1904 to 1908 that I was referencing. And so some of the things I was referencing, they weren't like with the ratings and stuff like that of Africa. They weren't from my personal experience, but they were for experiences that my family has sustained in Africa. But then someone would say that you're not African on this video, and I don't mean to argue that whether I'm African or not African, because I'm proud of my recent American heritage at all from my mother's side, but also my experience as a man. It was my heritage in this life as a man, as an American citizen man, and loving with, fighting with, not in an egregious way, but just that you respect people that you fought before that you come to blows. So when I was coming up in schools, I'd be both loving, fighting, befriending, and and dealing with African Americans that all amounts to just experiencing African American culture and being better for it, and really being proud of that. And so I'm not saying that I'm more or less of African or African American, but I'm proud of just who I am, and I'm just trying to be honest with that. But all I'm saying is that um, but the money is like it's cyclical and it's contingent, and then so you're so me being born in America, that's a form of fortune. It could potentially anything that's fortune can be misfortune. So if they were to just round everybody up and conscript someone to some horrible overseas conflict, that would be misfortune as a function of my place of birth. But my place of birth is a function of prior iterations of living by my now living and former living ancestors. And so your actual fortune, you can't say it's part of an ecosystem because it's greater than what's now living. I think ecosystem means all what's presently living, but fortune itself and the cycles thereof are part of a greater system of influences and efforts and sacrificing and winning and losing and living and dying that amount to broader cycles that are broader and greater than what's now currently living, but not independent of what had been, is now, and may yet live. At least in terms of a function. And so it also has to do with the seasons, the Earth itself, position on the Earth, and the actual very local planetary system, and probably beyond. Because according to Arthur Avalon, is that we receive, in all things receive, influences from all quarters of the universe at all times. You imagine if you're praying, right? If you're praying to what you call God, you don't know where God is. You can't isolate God. Neither can you isolate where your mind is in your body. But you would appreciate that, or where we call God is in what's called God's manifestation. But you sometimes you imagine that when you're praying, you may as well be praying to the opposite ends of the universe is where you think your prayers are going. And it's not that that's not the case, or that they couldn't be perceived from that standpoint, but so too can you perceive from that far away the opposite ends of the universe. And you are not also different than what you're praying to and what is hearing you pray and maybe speaking back to you. You're not different than any of that. So that you, from that standpoint, you are receiving influences and also transmitting influences to all quarters of the universe, to all stations in the universe at all times. So like this is Black Seed knocking on your radio. Whatever you do, wherever you broadcast, it may be manifest on one station, but it's actually going to all stations. So like when you go to the radio, when the radio is picking up all that stuff, if you isolate any channel, that channel is pronounced. I'm estimating that channel is pronounced, it's manifest, but all the other frequencies are existing, and they're not having an implication on any one frequency. The frequencies have viability and meaning and standing in reality based on the potential and reality of all frequencies, manifest and latent, and active and imminent and subject. All of those are existing at all. But so too are you. If you are broadcasting at all, you're broadcasting through all. That's why it's like I say, man, this fool came on the internet saying this and that. The mere fact that I'm uploading content to the internet, I'm actually broadcasting to all stations, to all users of the internet, that are viable for the internet. Here and here to come, potentially, and on some level, anything I'm doing here, it can affect other algorithms on the internet. It can affect other activity on the internet. So someone could watch this video and then say, they go on Facebook and say, I don't participate in Facebook currently, but someone could watch this video and say they could share this somewhere other platform, or they could say they could reference it another platform, or they could quote it, or lift it for better or worse, ethically or not, respectfully or not. And so anything I'm doing here, any activity here, it could potentially impact another venue, another cipher, another platform, another engagement, another activity, another rhythm, outcome, algorithm that could affect other people's further activity and what algorithms that we present to them, such that I'm basically broadcasting to the entire internet, to all stations. I'm manifest. They call this a channel, a YouTube channel. So I'm manifest. I'm blatant. I'm overt. I'm express. I'm clear on my channel, but I'm still actually impacting or impacted by, and could potentially influence or impact any other channel, any other station on the internet whatsoever. But such as too is life like that. So a lot of things are deep like that, but such as that our own life is that it's not outside of that degree of sophistication and interconnectivity, but also cycles within that, functions within that, and meaning within those cycles and functions, and actually accuracy within that, such as to be uncanny, profound, enlightening, the actual timing of things as they would manifest, when and how they are to manifest, or may or may not manifest, and that it's all kind of means a lot, and it's heavy like that, but that we can't help but to go up and down in terms of our fortune and misfortune. And some people that were savvy, like in alchemy, they actually understood how some of that correspondence to or correlates to the position of the planets, their influence on the earth, and also their influence on different aspects of the earth, such as metals. Not all metals the same way, particularly gold, copper, and silver. They have value in terms of bartering and sharing and exchanging that's deeper than the average layman person can understand. But also they have properties of reciprocity and in harmony. The more so thing being harmony, real power, that is real power, real wealth, real health, real freedom, real affluence is not viable outside of harmony. Some people say that you can't get away from politics. So the street has politics. Politics has politics, academia has politics, jobs have politics, professions, economy, industry, all countries, nations, hemispheres, all things have politics. You can't get past politics, try as you may. You can even say, man, I'm gonna be such a tough guy that I'm gonna be able to kick anybody's ass. Nobody can kick my ass, so I can be whoever I want, and I don't have to be political. Yeah, but you go to, if you had to engage a gym, or even like maybe you had to engage YouTube to learn about that somehow, or be able to afford the standpoint to engage YouTube or something like that, you had to engage in politics at some level with that. But the resolution to politics and the viability of politics or lack thereof, the consonance, assonance, and dissonance of politics itself, that is viability itself, that amounts to power and relegating real outcomes and consequences for better words, for life and death itself, can be summarized in the word harmony. So the what the difference between a particular metal, gold, copper, silver, and how it's affected by the planets, and actually how the planets affect themselves one the other, and are affected by themselves, and even up to like things broader and maybe subtler than what we know as planets. That amounts to harmony, and harmony isn't harmony because it's just agreeing, but actually the workability, the reality of something in reference to something else. That's harmony, as it's tractable, recognizable, repeatable, and understandable. And so that's what our fortune is about, and that's also what money is about. So money refers to the moon, according to Tashik Bey, but also it is more so in terms of copper, gold, and silver, and they have more value in terms of like. Because I just want to show you a little something I got. Now I could flash you a little bit of green, or I could show you the real love, the true love, the true gold is actually the color pink, because it's the love. That's power. Real. If you know what real power is, real P power is P power. The most powerful can be appreciated can be spelled different ways with the letter P. But I'm saying at least two of which would be so pink is a form of great power, and if I were to flash some gold like that, it would have different it had different convincingness, because money talks. So money talks. So what does that mean? So you say money talks. Cash, I'm not gonna say cash doesn't talk, but cash also isn't money. It's private commercial paper, and it's not. You didn't get it very far away from a bank, and it'll find its way very soon into a bank, whether you were to hoard it well or spend it well or not. Cash is gonna make its way back to the bank. Even if you keep it in your pocket that long, if you misplace something or something gets taken from you, they're gonna spend it somewhere, and they're also, wherever they spend it at, it's gonna get taken to a bank at the end of the night. So this cash is private commercial paper, according to Tashik Bey, and then also it's beholden to the banks who are holding it for you. Therefore, it's their shit while they're holding it for you, and also while you're holding it for yourself, holding it for them as they let you do that. But if you had money, it's not the same with money. You would be, if you say, so you say money talks. Okay, that doesn't mean cash talks. That doesn't mean cash does not talk. But that doesn't actually mean cash. Money talks. Okay, so what are you saying? You're saying gold, copper, and silver talk. You're damn right about that. I'm not here to argue that. But they talk differently. Probably they talk differently